We are only trustees, and we have a responsibility to, as a trustee, to hold and nurture the business and hand it over better than what we inherited from our previous trustees. I think this role of trusteeship was embedded in us fairly well, and I think that stood us in good stead, and that's why we were able to go through 3 generations and pass it on to the 4th generation with growth, with inclusiveness or not excluding I think I'll just take a few examples of the Chettiar community, as it were, and particularly my family, which still manages to maintain certain traditions in this thing. I think one of the first things that the Chettiars did when they went and traded anywhere in the world, and we talk about globalization, they believed in globalization much, much before the British came here, or even before, at the time of the British. During the Rajaraja Chola's expeditions into the Far East, it was the Chettiars who were the ones who financed it, and they went with them to trade. Evidence of this is available, and there's going to be a conference on this next month in Singapore on this very subject. And it's interesting to find that the Chettiars could have played that kind of a role. And evidence is the artisans for Angkor Wat or parts of Indonesia were all obviously taken from India and the Pallava and the Chola period, and this is all at that time possible only because of the traders who went there, and they were the Chettiars. Subsequently, of course, with the British moving into Burma, Malaya and Sri Lanka and Vietnam and places like that, Chettiars also moved there and started doing business. Now, we could certainly sit and look at certain data and statistics as well as see what mistakes we made. One of the mistakes we made in Burma was not do this inclusiveness business. While the Chettiars did trade and money lending business or whatever you want to call it in Burma, they took the temples as well as made the money there but brought it back to India, right? To that extent, we excluded the place of people that we made money with in Burma. Now, one of the lessons that at least in my family that we learned is wherever you go and start making money, and one of the key things about the Chettiars is, one of the main values is, they always had, the moment you made money, you have to write straight away a certain percentage to your temple or religion, whichever way you want to look at it. The second percentage, which is equal amount, as you give to God, you give to society. And something which we were all told was like, my grandfather, wealth and knowledge, if you retain it within your own family, it's useless unless you begin to share with everybody else. Apparently in Tirukkural there is a verse to explain this. Some of you might be better equipped. I'm not an intellectual, I'm not an academic. I just happen to be, I failed every subject that I studied, therefore the only physics, engineering, and everything else that I studied, I failed. But I was fortunate that I was born in a family which had very strong values and imbibed those values into me, and I managed to work from my shop floor to the CEO of the group. But what these values did was to make it very clear that if you don't share it with God as well, if you believe in that, and if you didn't believe in it, whatever you believed in, and with the people, which my father did, but then he did it in Burma, but passed on to India, and it was done, the sharing was done here. The first hospital which was opened in the family was in our village in 1924. Today we run 4 hospitals in the foundation, and four schools and a polytechnic. We educate 12,000 children. We don't charge them anything, and we don't in the hospitals they pay almost next to nothing if they want service. Now, this is something which we are very proud of. Now, it may not solve the problem. We certainly don't exclude anybody in that, whoever comes there. And if that money is not available, if the 10 rupee requirement for an X-ray is not available, the doctor will put it out of his pocket, but then pay it later maybe. But all sorts of things are available for them. And we're very proud of it on one hand, but it still does not solve the country's problem that Mr. Sainath brought about. And this is really where we have to, I think the problems are huge, as the statistics given by Mr. Sainath said, and this is where every one of us in families, and majority of you present here, run your own businesses, more or less as family businesses, and this is really where I think I come into this thing. As families, the first thing is to ask, what are the values we stand for? Are we just here to make money, or are we here to make money for a purpose which includes servicing the community to which we belong? Here I don't mean, when I say community, I don't mean the caste. I mean the community where we serve. This is what we learned. We made the money in Burma, but we didn't spend the money there in that community, but we spent the money in our villages. That's one of the reasons why you see a community of Chettiars, which is even today's population, 150,000 people, have in Tamil Nadu started 2 universities, which are Annamalai University and Alagappa University. Today, in that 70-odd villages, you don't see anybody who complains about educational requirements. For generations, these schools have been there, providing education for everybody in those villages. Now, these are all things that the community, but unfortunately, they didn't do it in Burma where they made the money. Therefore, we are seen in Burma today as dirty people. Fine. But we've learned our lessons, done something in wherever we are today, wherever we do business today. As long as you learn lessons from it as families, we always will make mistakes. But if we can learn from it, nothing like it. I think this is fundamentally the only issue that I wanted to share with you. And talking about innovation, I think Mr. Somnathan made the point about moving to Tirunelveli. This is exactly what's happening. I believe my son is moving after about 15 years of being away in the United States.